Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about movies, TV and online content and help you answer the question, will we ever be able to watch cop shows and movies the same again?
Fucking hell!
I'm your host,
crap,
Ashley
okay.
Hobley. Joining me this episode, Ciaran Marchant.
I'm here and not prepared for what. I just introduce the next person.
Also joining us, Dylan Blight.
If any of this was going to make a difference, it would have made a difference 50 years ago.
Fucking
I mean, if it was going to
holy-
affect you, how people feel about
holy
watching
crap.
stuff, it would have made a difference. Yeah.
Okay.
So the answer to your question is no.
So everybody, if you're listening to this is the Debbie Downers
Wait,
podcast.
is it yes? Will we be able to watch the cop shows and movies the same again?
Yes, you'll still be able to watch cop shows. Because
Okay, good.
Everyone will just get it.
Okay, good. Okay,
I mean,
that's it all. That's everything.
we
for
just
today,
have to-
folks. This has been
All cop shows are set in an alternate universe where this didn't happen.
cops are right and just and
where
good
where
people.
cops are actually good guys. Wow.
Hey, there's a couple good ones every now and then. Maybe.
Where maybe the bad ones are not as prominent. Anyway, moving on to the start of this episode. Man, oof, dug myself in a hole here. We got a good one. We're going to be talking about what's in our watch history. We'll be talking about some news. We'll talk about the movie we ended up watching, Animal Kingdom.
Also about cops.
Also involved cops.
Extremely cops.
I mean-
this is why Ashley wanted to watch it this week, because he's like, I'm worried that I won't be able to watch this in a couple freaking years' time. So you're
it's
just getting out of
possible.
the way now. It's fair.
So I guess sticking on a similar train, I saw today, Dylan, you watched the documentary 13th. What's 13th and why'd you watch it today?
13th. I don't have my phone in front of me. It's a documentary about systematic racism in America, directed by Ava DuVernay. That kind of chronicles America from like early America days up to current, and how the prison, the amount of inmates that have been kept has increased every 5 to 10 years. And now it's up to the amount of people that America has in incarceration is like 1 million something, I think is what it said in the documentary. And this documentary is a couple of years old now, and how a lot of this is, of course, black men, black women, the highest percentage of those being arrested, and kind of covers how different presidents brought in different laws and systems for the police to go about arresting young black men and women for different reasons, and then covers things about how the fact a lot of them are then just turned into slave labor inside prison to make things for different sorts of companies, and it's basically just equivalent of slaves from like 100 years ago, except for they're just keeping them in prison now. Anyway, it's a really great documentary. I've always wanted to watch it, but we're recording on what is Blackout Tuesday in America as of the moment. So I felt like I should watch something that I hadn't watched. They'll teach me something. So I decided to go and finally watch this, and it's very, very good. Of course, I'm a big fan of her last series. You would have heard me talk about a bunch on this podcast from last year.
When They See Us.
When They See Us. So Ava DuVernay has a great voice when it comes to black stories and history in America, I think.
Great. Changing tone a little bit. I watched the new HBO Max series that's airing on Stan, Love Life, starring Anna Kendrick. It is like your basic romantic comedy story about a young woman in New York City working away until she finally finds the one. There's currently 3 episodes out. It's fine. I mean, Anna Kendrick, she's super charming. There's not a lot of depth there. I mean, it's kind of forgettable, but I mean, it's enjoyable in the moment. The focus is very much on her. There's very little of the supporting cast, except like to show up in moments and like kind of support her, like to give her relationship advice for a couple of moments and that kind of thing. The third episode does start to flesh out like her roommate and like kind of best friend a little bit in her relationship, but yeah, mostly the focus is on Anna Kendrick and her story, which is fine. So apparently the series is going to be like an anthology series where every series will follow like a different person. So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. Likely to be the only HBO Max series on Stan, so I was actually surprised that it showed up on there. So yeah, enjoyable. Anna Kendrick's great. The writing's pretty good. It looks pretty. New York, it's hard to make New York look terrible, but yeah, I'm enjoying that. Dylan, you've been watching another documentary-based series, The Dark Side of Wrestling. What's that about?
Nice.
Dark Side of Dark Side of the Ring. That's it.
Of the Ring. There you go. There you go.
You got there eventually.
Yep.
So I finished all of season 1, and I just watched the last 2 I watched were the part 1 and part 2 of the Benoit episodes, which are the start of season 2. I've enjoyed every episode so far. Obviously, I think some are more interesting than others. The Benoit stuff was personally more interesting because that's so far the only person that I've ever watched when I was a kid, obviously. So obviously when it gets more into seeing people that you recognize that you actually watched in wrestling, it's going to be a bit more attachment. And it's cool as like when they cover like Randy Savage and stuff, I'm like, I know who that is, but I have no like attachment to like truly grab onto that. But I would say like I was going to watch this. I wanted to watch this before my sudden trip into watching AEW anyway, because I always thought it just looked interesting, especially the Benoit stuff was the kind of like, oh, I should check this out. And I'd say it's one of those shows that even if you don't care about wrestling, it's interesting enough just from a documentary point of view, or even if you're just into sports in general, because a lot of it covers, you know, sort of the dark side of sports in general, especially like the Benoit stuff, you know, that could be happening. That could have been that same story could have happened in like boxing or MMA. I think it
has.
Probably has.
Very much so.
In football, the whatever his name, Hernandez or whatever. I believe he did a similar kind of thing.
Part of everything with it.
Yeah, so it's not like you need to be into wrestling to enjoy the show. It's just interesting, and a lot of it does. Not all of them are like sort of true crime-ish, but a lot of the stories do get toward being true crime sort of stuff. So it's like if you enjoy watching true crime documentaries, you're probably just gonna like watching this anyway. I guess like there's only a handful of episodes so far, like 1 or 2 that are like more inside baseball wrestling stuff. Including like the Screwball Job episode. I guess that's more just
wait. The Screwball. Do you mean the Montreal Screw Job?
Yeah, Screwball Job.
The Screwball Job.
That was one of those things where, you know, when you say something and you're like, that's wrong, but you just commit anyway to see if anyone will notice or not notice. I'm like, yeah. As soon as you interrupted me, I was like, yeah, he caught me. That one's a bit more inside baseball, obviously, because that's to do with
Bret Hart getting screwed by Vince McMahon.
Yeah, Bret Hart getting screwed out of a title, and that's, you know, very inside baseball of what's going on there. But most of the episodes are to do with just either sports related stuff or like true crime related stuff. One of them gets into like fucking mafia shit, kinda. So
I think they're fascinating watches more for me because it's a group of the more behind the scenes writers talking very bluntly and honestly about the choices that were made and about the things that happened behind the scenes during those times, especially the times that they've talked about the wrestling. I want to say theory or state that's called kayfabe, which is, you know, making sure the public doesn't like what the public knows versus what the truth is. Was very covering at the time, so it's so interesting to hear the real truth about the choices made behind. It's interesting to see everybody's depiction of Vince McMahon, because Vince McMahon, who is featured extremely heavily through a lot of these stories,
he's a connecting dot to a lot of people.
Yes, and it's always very interesting with him because he is an enigma onto himself a lot of times, because everybody's talking about him, but you also at the same time get the feeling that okay, some of it's true, some of it's buying into the zeitgeist of it all. What actually is the truth out of all of this? Like, who is the real Vince McMahon? And from a lot of this, not a great human being. not a great human being is what the dark side of the ring really kind of portrays.
What you just said before about the kayfabe, I think that is one of my more interesting takeaways watching this series. Like, because obviously it's kind of traveling from back in the heyday, the 60s-ish or early 70s, I think it kind of starts.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we're up to like early 2000s sort of covering stuff. I think it's interesting to see how whenever they talk about the 70s, 80s, early 90s sort of stuff, like how like you could not break kayfabe, and so many of the stars, the trouble they get into is actually caused by them kind of losing themselves to their characters outside of the ring. And watching all of that go down, I'm just so much happier with how
wrestling
stuff is now. Like the fact I was talking to Ciaran right before we started recording, how I was watching Sammy what's his name?
Sammy Guevara.
Yeah, thank
there
you. Mental blank. Sammy Guevara's vlog, who one of the AEW stars. And I love how more people these days, it's just an accepted thing that you can just watch the wrestling show where they're a character, and then you can still watch their own content outside where they're not being a character, and that they're free to just do whatever they want. I think that's a lot healthier for people.
And they're able to interact with other people that, even though on the show their characters are one's good, one's bad, they're able to interact with people like outside and publicly that back in those days you just weren't allowed to do. If you were a good guy, you couldn't hang around with one of the bad guys. It just wasn't a thing.
Yeah. It's like bad for your mental health. Like, it has to be.
Yeah, exactly. So it shows the evolution of wrestling in general, and I think also at the same time it puts a bit of hope that wrestling is in somewhat of a better place. Like, sometimes with a lot of different kind of franchises or events or sports or kind of, you can't always say that they're in a better place now in the current time period than they were, 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. But wrestling's definitely one of those that I 100% believe is on the up and on the improvement at the moment.
I mean, speaking of AEW, we might as well just mention we all watched Double or Nothing. Did you want to give some quick impressions? Because we did our full review of AEW's Double or Nothing on the debut episode of Radio Watson. Check the description down below in the show notes to get the link over there. Make sure you subscribe to Radio Watson. This has not been an ad. But yes, quick thoughts?
I think anything for so we don't bore people with just heaps of wrestling talk about a pay-per-view. I think if people can somehow just give themselves the 15, 20 minutes to watch Stadium Stampede, I think even people outside of wrestling can just watch that and just enjoy the crazy zaniness of that design, where it's no longer really a wrestling match. It is a spectacle. It is a fun, character-driven event that's really enjoyable to watch. On the overall, really well put together and produced, and is just something to just enjoy. But I think that's a lot of people might not get or might not understand about wrestling in the modern era, is that wrestling's is evolved and is growing, and I think Stadium Stampede is a collection of everything they've learned in the last couple of years, everything they've kind of progressed and put into wrestling, to make it more of a spectacle for people to watch at home and not just going to the live shows.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the show as well. So, but if you want an in-depth discussion of Double or Nothing, Radio Watson, it's all there. Before we move on, a couple of things that I've been rewatching recently. Community. Obviously, it dropped on Netflix like maybe a month ago. I've just been watching episodes constantly, it feels like, while doing other stuff. I think it's firming, like, even more. It's like one of my top shows of all time. Like, I
think Donald Glover gets better every time I watch Community. Like, I just appreciate him more and more with every single viewing of it. Like, it's just so like, his character portrayal in that show is just so interesting compared to his just real life, the person he is outside of show business and just kind of his more natural human being. It's a really good, and I think that cast is on a whole a really solid cast.
I mean, it's a yeah, really good cast. I don't think like a lot of that cast has gone on to bigger and better things, arguably.
Of course.
Which is kind of rare for like a long running sitcom.
Joel McHale, Chevy Chase,
Well,
those two are...
Okay. I mean, Joel did some other stuff, but yeah. But pretty much everyone else. I mean, yeah, to have that high number of people from a longish running sitcom go on to a lot of other successful projects is pretty rare, I think, thinking about it. But yeah, even, I mean, season 4, it's not that great. I think I watched 1 or 2 episodes in that, but season 5, season 5, season 6, which I feel like I haven't watched as much because I've got the first 3 seasons on DVD, and they're pretty good. They're pretty solid and pretty enjoyable. And then the finale, it like kept me right there. You know, tears. It's a great finale. So yeah, hashtag 6 seasons of movie. I'm gonna do a quick segment of talking about some anime, because over on Anime Lab, I think it was last weekend or the weekend before. They had a short 72-hour period where you could watch the anime movie Promare on Anime Lab. It's obviously an anime produced by Trigger and X-Flag. Pretty much the premise is a world where people suddenly spontaneously combust, and it follows like the firefighters that go around and stop the fires, I guess. There's a bigger story around that. There's like the base premise and like the setup. There's like a terrorist group in quotation marks that is like setting the fires and exacerbating the issue. But there might be a big conspiracy as to why all of this is happening.
It's very weird because there's another anime series called Fire Force that is like exactly the same plot.
It's very similar. The difference is, I think Fire Force, everybody has like fire-based powers and that kind of thing to sort of stop.
Correct.
Everybody's using mechs, and like, some people have like the bad guys have like the fire special powers or whatever, but the good guys are all using like mechs and different things to stop the fires and that kind of thing.
Gundam Pyro, I like it.
Yeah. So, I think the thing that makes this stand out is like the art style is really eye-catching and like it's really beautiful to look at. Really, I don't know, pop art style, I guess, is the best way I could describe it. It's not like your usual. It's not like Studio Ghibli at all, which is good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Plug for Studio Ghibli's animated wonders. Let's drop it in there. Nothing wrong with the Ghibli style, but yeah.
Ashley's just like a plugging machine lately. He's just like going into full promotion mode.
We've got so many podcasts, it's easier to just drop a plug in for everything. So yeah, Promare, I think it's coming back like a proper physical release in the coming month or so. So yeah, definitely worth checking that one out. Alright, let's move into the mandatory Netflix segment of the show. So I've got a few things to talk about. I checked out The Lovebirds, the Paramount film, I believe. Yeah, Paramount Pictures film that was set to release back in April, got delayed because of COVID-19, and then they sold the rights to Netflix and was released on May 22nd, starring Issa Rae and Kumail Nanjiani. Pretty much, they are witnesses to a murder, and they both being. I
was gonna say they saw a murder. Like what the hell was that?
Both being people. both being people of color. They assume that the police will think they committed the murder, so they go on the run and try and.
Wait, are you laughing at current circumstance or what?
I mean, I didn't see the connection straight away until the words started coming out of my mouth.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they have to try and figure out why this person got murdered, and it's if you've ever seen the movie Date Night with Tina Fey and Steve Carell, it is very similar to that. But yeah, I mean, Kumail Nanjiani and Issa Rae very good together. The other thing is, they're at like right before they witness the murder, they're about to break up after like several years apart, and this is like a rekindling the relationship kind of thing. There's a lot of fun
Oh,
set.
yeah, rekindling over murder. You know, that's
There's a lot of fun,
Really would
fun
bring me
set
back together
pieces
with my
and
loved one.
comedy bits and that kind of stuff. So, I really enjoyed it. Worth your time on Netflix. I think it's only like an hour and a half, so I mean it's not that long. You'll get a good couple of laughs out of that one. So then I also watched Space Force, the new series created by Greg Daniels of Office. Mainly The Office, I think, is this big thing, obviously, and Steve Carell. Don't know if you heard of him. He's from The Office as well. But also starring John Malkovich. I didn't realize until much later, until I actually started watching. But it's a workplace comedy set in the newly established sixth branch of the American Armed Forces, according to Donald Trump, Space Force. Yeah, so it's pretty much playing into that. It's like, obviously the first episode, they're kind of set up the concept of Space Force. They've set up this massive base in Denver so they can do tests and that kind of thing. It is a bit all over the place. I feel like the laughs are pretty... when they hit, they're really good. And the show does have a knack of like finding the emotional moment right at the end of the episode. So you feel good going out of the episode. But it kind of like is meandering a lot of the time. It's a bit all over the place. I did like... They've got Jimmy O Yang, who most people would probably know from Silicon Valley, playing a very different character to the one I've seen him play in. Like,
I did see him. I did see
he normally
him
plays Jian Yang on Silicon Valley, and he plays that character, I think, very similar character in Crazy Rich Asians. In this, he's a scientist. He's a much more reasonable, sensible person. He's really great. I enjoy all the scenes with him.
fucking Jin Yang.
Yeah. John Malkovich, great in this. He plays like the head of science, who is kind of against all the militarization of the Space Force. They're putting boots on the moon, but
Is he just like? Is he actually playing a character, or is he just always?
He's playing
John
a character.
Malkovich? Oh, that's kind of disappointing.
I know, but he's fun to listen to because he does put on like a cool accent, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ben Schwartz is the other, I guess, big name. He plays the social media manager for Space Force. So you can imagine the kind of hijinks and storylines he gets into. But yeah, I mean, it kind of meanders along. It kind of ends on like... It just kind of ends. I mean, it's meant to be like a cliffhanger, but I'm not super invested in the cliffhanger. And then they got this weird storyline with Lisa Kudrow, who plays Steve Carell's wife, who's in prison for some reason. They never explain why she's in prison for like 40 years. But it's a running thing, and it's like, can't you just explain why? It's kind of frustrating. There's bits and pieces that are good there, but a lot of meandering and not so great stuff. But yeah, only 10 episodes. I mean, it's an easy thing to watch like in the background or whatever. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was I watched the new Hannah Gadsby special, Douglas. Now, anybody who's listened to this podcast knows that we're big fans of
She was supposed to retire.
Yeah. Her last special, Nanette. This is not going to be an exact follow-up to Nanette. As she says at the start of the special, if she knew trauma was such a selling point, she would have saved some of her trauma for other specials instead of using it all in the first one. She was supposed to retire, but then she got successful. But no, she does tackle some different issues. Interestingly enough, the special starts with her explaining exactly what's going to happen in the special. And it works in a way. She's obviously worked the show, so it works with her explaining how the show is going to play out. Like, generally, and that kind of thing. So, yeah, really good special. I don't think it's like... if you're going in anticipating it's going to be exactly the same as Nanette, you're going to end up disappointed because it's more of a usual comedy special, with her, of course, with her brand of humor and the different observations, that kind of thing. So, yeah, definitely worth watching, I think. All right, that is everything in our watch history.
Wait, I need to jump in right here because I had a brain blast of something that people need to watch that I've just watched that is just fantastic. everyone needs to, on the YouTubes, which is another very successful streaming service you might have heard of. Recently, you might have seen, Josh Gad has been doing a series of reuniting casts and going back and doing interviews. And he's Lord of the Rings one. I've just watched it. The amount of, like, he has literally got most of the main cast of Lord of the Rings on this. And it is stunning to watch and experience. It's amazing to see Ian McKellen still just has not missed a beat in life. And he is 100% still Gandalf. Like, his entrance to
he's always been Gandalf.
He's always been Gandalf. And it's just like, like, sometimes when actors, as they grow older, they can start, slowing down a bit and missing beats. And he just must have Gandalf just on a switch somewhere in his brain where you can just switch to it immediately. I think it's a really interesting watch to see the cast interact together, and to hear more about behind the scenes that you might not have already known. Stuff like, Sean Bean had the entire script for the council scene written on his leg. It's like stuck to his knee for the whole section. It's a really fun watch, and I think Josh Gad actually does a really good job of interviewing and managing a Zoom call, which has some very just typical video conferencing Zoom kind of problems to it. So people should check that out.
Cool. That's everything that's in our watch history. Let's move on to some movie and TV news. The big news the last 2 weeks. Finally, fans rejoiced all over the world because HBO Max presents the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. It's coming. You people with your hashtag Snyder Cut won. So for those who don't know, Zack Snyder had to leave the project of Justice League abruptly due to personal circumstances. He had a lot of footage that apparently was ended up on the cutting room floor with Joss Whedon coming in and finishing the film, doing additional shoots. Fans have long maintained that even though they have never actually seen it, the Snyder Cut would be the superior movie. Now they'll be able to find out if that's actually true. So apparently there was a Man of Steel watch-along where Snyder said, I want to thank HBO Max and Warner Brothers for this brave gesture of supporting artists and allowing their true vision to be realized. Also, a special thank you to all those involved in the Snyder Cut movement for making this a reality. The Warner Brothers Entertainment Media and Direct-to-Consumer chairman said, since I got here 14 months ago, the chant to release the Snyder Cut has been a daily drumbeat in our offices and inboxes. Well, the fans have asked, and we are thrilled to deliver. At the end of the day, it really is all about them, and we are beyond excited to release Zack's ultimate vision of this film in 2021. This could never have happened if they weren't for the hard work and combined efforts of HBO Max and Warner Brothers Pictures. Interesting thing there. Not coming till 2021. Why is that, you ask? Doesn't he just have a cut somewhere lying in his cupboard? No. Apparently, there is going to be a lot of visual effects redone and that kind of thing. Apparently, they're spending upwards of $30 million on this recut of a film from
So it's not even the
2018?
Snyder Cut.
I mean,
It's not even the original Snyder Cut.
I mean, not the one that he
It's not even
showed
the cut
Jason
that people
Momoa.
said
No.
that they wanted.
Yeah.
This is horseshit. I want the Snyder Cut. I want the real Snyder Cut, not this imposter.
Not the improved Snyder Cut, I think, is what he's getting at.
Who says it's going to be
With
improved?
extra mustache.
Is it going to have... If it's,
Okay, Ciaran, how do you feel about this news? Do you think this is a good thing or a bad thing? This is coming.
I think it's easy money for both Warner Brothers and HBO.
To be clear, this is not coming to cinemas. It is coming to
It's not coming to
their
cinemas.
streaming
it's just-
service. And
Yes,
there is
so-
even rumblings that it's going to be cut up into 30-minute pieces. Because it's like over 3 hours long.
What? 30-minute, what? It's just, sorry, that's...
There's just rumors and speculation there.
Okay, that's, I don't know. I just think, I don't see, so either the people who are asking for Snyder Cut, there's going to be two responses. Either people are going to complain that it isn't the real Snyder Cut if it's crap, and they'll use that as the excuse, or they will defend it no matter if it's good or bad. They'll just still say it's the better one of the two. I think it's just yeah, sure, whatever. It'll be interesting to see the cut and see how much was changed from it. I know recently David Ayer came out and said that his version of Suicide Squad is very different from the Suicide Squad that was released because of Deadpool, and how the studio wanted to take it into a more comedy-like place like Deadpool is. So it'll be interesting to see where a director's choice and this director's cut and Snyder's cut will take that movie, and if you can save that heaping pile of garbage.
Dylan, I'm suspecting you've got some strong feelings about this.
Not really, because let me put it this way. I'm excited-ish to watch it. I'm keen to watch it. But at the same time, all the Snyder Cut dude bros on Twitter kind of make me not want to be associated with being excited to watch this. I think this is actually an interesting one because, like, the thing with David Ayer and whoever else, all these sort of things, that's all just director's cut to me, is what that just sounds like. Whereas I actually think the Snyder version and what happened, I actually think it's kind of a positive story because as much if you love him or hate him, Snyder was setting up the DC universe and he was the one, that helped get this thing going, and the fact that he had to be pulled away from the Justice League because of such a terrible event happening in his life, I think that's super. It's horrible and it's sad, but I think the fact that he gets a second shot now, there's something kind of happy, and you can see it. It's him being able to potentially resolve this period of his life somewhat. I feel like there's more to this than simply him getting to make the movie. It's him returning to this one of the worst, if not the worst moment of his life, like, period. And he now gets to go back and finish up this project the way he wanted to, or as close to the way he wanted to. So I think from that aspect, there's a lot more to this than simply, dude bros on the internet get Snyder to get a second go at the movie. I think there's a lot more to it. But also, for my personal views on if a Snyder cut could be better, I say yes, simply because when Batman v Superman came out, I gave the theatrical cut a 6, and I gave the ultimate cut an 8.5, I think. I actually think the ultimate cut is way, way, way better than the version of that movie I saw in cinemas. I remember I walked out of cinemas being utterly disappointed by that movie, and then when the ultimate cut came out, I was like, all right, let's give this a go. And I wasn't I wasn't actually expecting it to be much better because I didn't have my hopes up. And the only reason I get excited about this Justice League movie is because I was shocked at how much better the ultimate cut actually made that movie by simply adding in certain scenes that literally changed the certain characters' storylines completely, the tone of certain things, explain more stuff. It was way longer, obviously, and that's the downside, but I really enjoy it. And if any time I've rewatched Batman v Superman, it's been the ultimate cut. I have not watched the theatrical cut since I saw it in cinemas. So I'm keen for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for Zack Snyder, I guess. I guess hopefully it shuts up all those fans so they can stop complaining and spamming posts of anything mentioning DC Comics. I think that would be nice. I think it's a good use of HBO Max. This is this streaming service. This is this property that you're really probably not going to do anything with. It's going to give it second life and a way to boost it again, I guess. But my major question for this though is, if this is actually quite good, or even slightly better, or let's say that everyone hates Justice League and considers that a 5 or something, and let's say this even comes out for most people sitting around a solid 7 to 8 on their enjoyment factor, then how does DC react at that point? Because then it's well, how do we recurve all of our other films back onto this new timeline? Because this is alternate timeline stuff, No. I'm sure this movie does things with the characters Flash.
that aren't.
That's the solution.
Yeah, well, maybe. Yeah.
I just think it's, has at this point, has DC ditched the universe kind of
yes and
direction?
no.
Because with like with the up and coming Batman project with Robert Pattinson, that obviously like I'd like to see how that fits into Justice League unless they do like I want to say multiverse, but it's not multiverse.
They pretty much have started being like it's connected if we want it to be, and if not, it's not. And like,
which I think it's really, I don't like that approach. I think either go or like properly, like the
they
thing
tried
always,
all in, it didn't work.
No, but they didn't all in. But they didn't all in well. Is my problem? It's like you know, two people went into a contest and they're both like, right, we're gonna both light our pants on fire, and whoever can deal with it the longest wins. One of them poured gasoline on their pants. It was a very weird. I don't know where that came from. That little anecdote, but that's fine. What I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, I think DC just have rushed everything, and that's been my biggest problem with them building the DC universe or building their connected plot, is because whereas maybe Marvel didn't always seem like it was going towards that direction, but it was still moving into that direction. Because of how late DC were in starting to build, it just seemed like everything was kind of forcing this possibility down our throats and forcing the inevitable team-up movie. So when we got to Justice League, it was just a very different movie to when we got to Avengers.
Yeah. It was definitely fast-tracked, so it definitely felt more rushed. I think they might be going more in the direction of their animated films they've been doing recently, where they've got a core movies that have a set continuity going through them, but then they also do like offshoots of like different comic adaptations, that kind of thing, voiced by different people and that kind of thing. That might be a cool way to do it going forward. It's hard to, but that's a hard thing to brand to, I guess, the like casual moviegoer. Like, this one isn't canon. Why isn't Joaquin Phoenix in this Batman movie?
I was about to say, because Joker is already like, that's not connected to anything. They've said
that's never going to be connected to anything.
thing.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. You mentioned David Ayer, and obviously he talked about maybe doing a cut of Suicide Squad, which makes sense because if I remember correctly, they got the team that did the trailer for Suicide Squad because that was so well received, and got them to edit the film, and that's pretty much the cut that got released in theaters. A team who knew nothing about editing films. They just know how to
I think
put
Ayer
them to
even
music real good.
mentioned that there was large script changes made as well. That the script for his original project was very different to the script that was used in the movie in the end. So I don't even know if a cut really fixes that movie.
I mean, if they shot stuff that was originally written.
Awesome.
Yeah. Do you think director's cut could be like a thing for streaming services? Like, Warner Brothers can go, hey, we've got the exclusive... You can't get it anywhere else. Director's cut of Suicide Squad. Hey, we've got Netflix comes out and says we've got the special director's cut of Blade Runner 2049.
No, that movie's fine. But also, I mean, director's cuts aren't new things, and it's not
they're not real. They haven't been really seen in the last decade and a half. I don't think.
Like there are stories. Like, for example, when I watched the original like theatrical cut of Blade Runner when I was in high school, I thought it was a bad movie. And then when I watched the director's cut of Blade Runner, or the final cut, whatever it's called, when I watched that several years later, I really, really enjoyed that movie. And so it's not like the first case of a director's cut makes major changes to a movie that makes it go from bad to good in a lot of people's minds. So this isn't new ground we're trading on, and I don't think all of a sudden we need every movie to be like, yeah, there's a fucking director's cut for it, because for marketing reasons, like they turn it into a thing where they just basically get to hook people in, going, yeah, you need to watch the director's cut of Black
it's
Canary.
a thing where if it becomes a common thing, you then get audiences going, wait, why am I watching this cut then if this is not what the director wants? If the director wants this cut, why aren't you guys just releasing this when it first comes out? I think it just causes a problem when you're consistently releasing two cuts of the same movie. It's just going to rub audiences the wrong way around for more of the general public viewer, not really your kind of more movie-loving audience.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I doubt it would be for everything, but there might be like maybe 1 or 2 projects that would be like cool to switch up. But like the Quentin Tarantino thing with Hateful Eight, the miniseries that obviously cut together and that kind of thing. Like just some landmark projects. I mean, that's an interesting way to get people into a subscription service, I would think. And director's cuts are like hard to get on streaming services, I think. Like
you have to buy it usually off iTunes or something to get access to it, because they're usually on the DVD or Blu-ray if they exist.
Yeah, because I think we wanted to
I want to watch
the Kingdom Heaven, but we're supposed to watch the director's cut.
I want to watch the Doctor Sleep one because that's something that exists. Not that I think the original version is bad, but I just think that I want to watch the director's cut because I know it's a bit longer. It's like, I think it's like 15-20 minutes longer, and I like that movie enough as is to want to see what more 15-20 minutes can add to that movie. But the only way to watch that is to get the Blu-ray or probably buy it on iTunes.
Even like the black and white cut of Logan, which I think is fantastic, and it's my preferred way of watching that movie, is in the black and white cut that came out with it.
Yeah, I brought that. You can't get that anymore. You had to pre-order it.
Yeah, no, it was well worth it, and I think having options like those on streaming platforms could move forward and make a streaming platform a more complex place for your movie viewing needs.
Yeah. Keeping on the DC train, rumor has it that that Henry Cavill is in talks to maintain his role as Superman within the DC.
I'm gonna wrap this story up real fast. I had no idea he left. Okay, end of story. Cool.
I only heard that it
I'm
was like
pretty
a hot
sure
and
we
cold
talked
thing.
about it on this podcast.
Don't remember it.
For me, it was like a kind of Henry Cavill playing hard to get, so he either got the decisions he needed to be made for that role or more money. Is all I've ever taken that for, and I've never really acknowledged the fact that he's left as Superman.
Yeah. So apparently the deal going forward is not for a Man of Steel 2, which is disappointing, but for him to show up in other projects. I guess potentially a Shazam 2, or potentially Black Adam, or maybe he pops up at the end of Wonder Woman.
Because wait, he already totally showed up at the end of Shazam. That was totally
the
Henry
start of
Cavill at
Shazam
the
2
end of
is
the
that scene, then the camera pans up.
Hands up. It was Henry Cavill the entire time.
Yeah. So how do we feel about Henry Cavill potentially like showing up in small parts? I mean, it makes sense. I suspect he's going to be pretty busy doing The Witcher for the foreseeable future. So I don't know if he'd be able to fit a full feature film shooting schedule in his schedule.
I just, I don't know. I would really love for them to take Superman in a different direction for a little bit.
They tried it. People hated it.
You hated it?
No, but they tried it. Man of Steel is different, and then people hated it.
Well,
so.
not even just Man of Steel direction, but all explore one of the other versions of Superman. Like explore, I am always fascinated by Injustice's Superman, which is something that I think would be very interesting to watch on the big screen, because I think it's such a complex and interesting way for that character to be portrayed. And I think it would be refreshing to have that as part of it, instead of just having the same old classic cookie cutter Superman. It would be refreshing to an audience to watch that and then go back to normal Superman. I think it'd show a good kind of contrast there for people.
I'm happy to see him continue playing Superman, because I think he didn't get to see his the full run of that character come to light, because basically in my mind the way the storyline is supposed to work, and if Zack Snyder's version of Justice League kind of finishes this, then that might help. But like Man of Steel is about, someone coming to terms with really spending a lot of time building up that character to coming to terms with the fact that he's got powers, and great power comes great responsibility. Like they really turn that into a long haul. And then even in Batman v Superman, when he's finally Superman, he's still struggling with how to deal with day-to-day life, all these sorts of things. He never becomes the full of hope American hero Superman that everyone wanted, and the version that everyone's used to and everyone wants to see. And in my view, I think that's what he's supposed to get to be by the end of Justice League if the movie was done properly. Like, that's my through line for all of these movies, is where his version of Clark Kent goes through all this shit, goes through so much, and then by the time you get to end of Justice League, you've got this version of Superman who's literally died and come back to life, and then he's finally the version that's full of hope for everyone, that everyone wants him to see. And then we can actually see Henry Cavill play that version of Superman, the super hopeful, more Christopher Reeves version.
I really hope that the Snyder Cut fixes Superman being somewhat goofy at the end of Justice League. Like the whole kind of final battle scenes, I think he is the one most poorly kind of perceived by the reshoots. Not just because of the mustache of Doom, but I think his character gets overly goofy, overly quick, because of like his story arc just makes kind of no sense from the point of reawakening and going forward.
The rumors were in the original cut he's supposed to, when he comes back, you know how you have that scene where he has the fight against everyone?
Yes.
Like, and that's all it is, and then all of a sudden he like forgets it and he's like, oh, I'm back, everyone, I'm a good guy again.
Yes.
Apparently in the original version, like, him being bad was supposed to be a lot longer point of the movie, and then by time you get to the end and they help him come out of it and help him see the light or whatever, it feels a bit more earned when he's suddenly like he like cracks a joke at Bruce when he finally comes out the other side, you know, like, which it might feel a bit more earned if they do something like that, but it's hard to tell. Yeah,
I don't know. I like Goofy Superman. Feels more like actual Superman, but yeah. I mean,
I'm fine with it. I just don't think they did it like they try and get to that point by the end of the Justice League, but it doesn't feel like it fits.
It's good when it's there. It's like hard. It's just getting from there, from where he started to there. That's not great.
I just think it's almost like Whiplash, that it goes from one kind of one end to the other so quickly that it's like, well, fuck, okay, crap, we're here, cool, we're here now, but crap, why, like, this has just moved too quickly.
I mean, I'll put it on record. I absolutely, the opening of Batman v Superman, that is sets up that movie to me, and the way Zack Snyder kind of views these characters. And I know often he is super hammy with his metaphorical images and all this sort of stuff, but I'm willing to forgive it. I don't mind it sometimes. But I absolutely love the opening of Batman v Superman, and just the way they set up everything there, and the fact that you get to see the idea. He just presents Superman as like, yeah, he's good guy at the end of Man of Steel, but from Bruce's point of view, he's fucking literally killing people, like slamming fucking Zod through these buildings and all this sort of stuff. So if you want him to get from that in people's eyes to cracking jokes, hammy Superman, you definitely need to connect the dots a bit better than suddenly, hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah. And I think we did talk about him leaving the role of Superman back at episode 15.
That's too long ago. I can't remember that.
Yeah.
You're not actually go back to it to be like, haha, I'm right.
I knew
the episodes tell me I'm right.
I knew I had a
Suck it,
thumbnail.
Dylan.
I knew I made a thumbnail with Superman in it for something.
It's like 2 years ago.
That is almost like back in, was it September 2018? So
Yeah, I can't remember then.
yeah, that's long enough. But for him to be in limbo that long, I guess they saw success of The Witcher and they're like, damn, we're going to need to lock him back down. Next story. So the new Foxtel service Binge launched this past week. It's called Binge, as I think we suspected last episode. Its currently starting price is at $10. It's $14 for, I think, 2 HD streams, and then $18 for up to 4 concurrent HD streams.
Really? That's yikes.
I
No,
mean,
Ash, if you want me to answer your question real quick, no, I haven't, and here's my reason. Everything you just read out, what's the key thing missing that is
4K.
Thank you very much. There's no fucking 4K. Get fucked with your fucking Binge. Get the fuck out of here.
I mean,
Look, Foxtel is just assisting in the Australian internet crisis that is currently being caused by people streaming at 4K across the country. Okay, Dylan?
No, it's just, they have all these goddamn shows like Game of Thrones and whatever else, and they're like, yeah, you can watch it in HD. I can't see episode 3 unless it's in 4K, all right? I need to be able to see in the darkness of that episode. I cannot do it in SD or HD.
let's be honest, can anybody see that?
You're only in 4K on 2 TVs at once.
with my
how it works.
HDR, like finally
only when I
with
put my
HDR
Blu-ray-
finely tuned.
my 4K Blu-ray into my. I mean, cool. It's launched. Obviously, it's got a great number of great shows. All the Foxtel stuff. My question is this going to cannibalize Foxtel's own audience? How many people are going to jump from subscribing to Foxtel, which has a base package of $25, to just binge and possibly KO if they're only getting their Foxtel for sport?
The thing is, I've already made the jump to just getting KO because I don't want to pay for Foxtel. But Foxtel, if you look at like app stores, Foxtel already has, I think, 3 or 4 different quote-unquote streaming apps. There's like Foxtel Now, there's Foxtel Go, there's Foxtel Go Home. You dumb. Like,
I believe
it's just this
Foxtel Now is the like new version. Foxtel Go is like they.
There's one where
So
you can
they
watch live
cut it.
streams, and there's
Yeah.
one.
So the Foxtel. Oh yeah. Foxtel Go, I think
Here's a key one you missed. Foxtel barbecue app.
What? What?
I don't think you can see it, can you?
is that
Foxtel
see that.
barbecue app?
It's real.
Is that
Foxtel
real?
barbecue app. Yeah,
Is
it's
it-
real.
is
It
it
is
for
real. It says the
watching
Foxtel
Foxtel, or is
barbecue
it-
app is a support platform that provides helpful information to answer questions from Foxtel subscribers. But nonetheless, it's the first thing that popped up when I searched for it. Foxtel barbecue app.
but why is
just
the
the fact
barbecue
that-
in it?
So, I don't think
Dylan shrugs.
think that Foxtel is that worried about dividing its own consumer base, because a large portion of its consumer base that pays for Foxtel have no clue when it comes to technology and no clue when it comes to streaming services. That's just kind of the bottom line of it, sadly, in Australia, is the fact that the people only understand Foxtel is where you go to get these shows, and that's where they go and do it. Unless they've got kids and somebody said, "Can I have Netflix, please?"
Yep.
Yeah, that's their first introduction to it.
Yeah. So I've got Foxtel at my house at the moment. I'm probably going to keep paying for Foxtel purely for like the set-top box. It just makes it easier for my family. Obviously, like record live TV, they can easier for my little brother to just switch between whatever kids show channels he wants to watch. Yeah, and then obviously they are integrating all the different things into the Foxtel set-top box, so it's all there in one place. And then I'll just be over in my other room watching all my stuff on PlayStation.
I will say, there is something beautifully simple about Foxtel compared to streaming services now, where if I do sit down to watch something,
Yeah,
I often
you have to
sit down
choose.
flicking between different streaming services, being like, all right, what is there for me to watch? Whereas there's something simple of being like, okay, this is my favorite channel. I turn on this channel. I'm just going to watch whatever's on the channel. Like, there's just something so simple and it just doesn't happen anymore for me, which, I miss.
Okay. Well, do you think this service will... Interesting fact I've reading up is that Foxtel has never gone beyond 30% of the population having access to Foxtel, which is bonkers when
Really?
Game of Thrones is like the biggest show in the world. Admittedly, it is the
Yeah.
most pirated show in the world.
Yeah.
But-
And Australia was always at the number one.
always
Right.
near the top. So maybe those people aren't as tech unsavvy as you thought. Do you think this will help Fox? Do you think people who wouldn't get the base box will be subscribing to Binge for a lot of these new properties that they haven't been able to get legally elsewhere?
Nope. Not when you've just listed the options for their service as, honestly, for me, kind of garbage. Like, even if you compare them to the similar...
Oh no! We don't have 4K!
No, but
Like-
even like if you compare the base pack for Netflix and the base pack for Foxtel, I think or the equivalent, if you go equivalent to Netflix to the equivalent of that, Netflix is just cheaper already. For like 2 HD screens, Netflix I think is, I don't even know if they do something that low.
No, I don't think so. I don't even know if
I
they
don't
care how many
believe they
people are
would do
watching
anything that low
simultaneously.
anymore. I don't believe so.
I mean, I think the content there is obviously of a high enough quality that will draw people in, even if it's just for like a month. Like, hey, Westworld season 5 is coming. Let's watch that. Let's subscribe to Binge for like 3 months. We'll watch that. Or The Last of Us TV series is coming to HBO. It's only available on Foxtel, so let's watch that.
Has it been confirmed that all of these shows you're listing will simulcast on Binge?
I don't know about simulcast. I assume it might be a similar thing to Netflix and like shows from obviously America. It updates at 5 o'clock. The show's there.
Okay, because that is a key factor and may affect people picking between Foxtel and Binge. Like, can I watch Westworld or whatever
and a $10
show?
price point difference.
Yeah, it's like can I watch it as it's airing, or do I have to wait for 12 hours? You know.
Yeah. That's a key point, but I don't think there's anything currently that I can test that.
Not that I know of, or not that I care about. If Westworld was on still, obviously, that was the last HBO show I was watching. If that was on, I could like test, obviously, but I don't know. I could probably still test, but I can't be signing up for it because it looks like trash. So my answer to your question is no. And I'm very confused about. I don't understand it.
You don't understand why they don't have 4K?
I don't understand why it's a thing. I don't understand how they're marketing it. I don't really understand how it differentiates.
Well, it's cheap Foxtel that. I mean,
it just seems to be behind the times, as a lot of things.
Well, I
think
think they're feeling like they're trying to catch up.
Then come out with 4K. Forehead?
Does Stan have 4K?
Yes, Ashley.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Do you think a company like Marvel would partner with Stan if they didn't have something like 4K?
Do you think I'm watching Better Call Saul in HD, Ash?
Ashley, you are.
If you didn't have a choice.
No.
All right. Well, there you go. Binge. I believe they're doing 2-week trials at the moment, so get in there, watch some like Succession and what else is good on there at the moment? I know Big Little Lies. That's a show I haven't watched. Bad Education. I heard that's very good. Yeah. All right, moving on. Interesting news coming out of Blumhouse. So apparently, Lee Winnell, the director of The Invisible Man, is working on a TV show with Blumhouse for as an adaptation of Upgrade. They filmed from 2018, starring Logan Marshall Green.
I didn't say it's great, I think.
Apparently, it's going to be set after the events of that film, but yeah, the TV adaptation is in the works. Is it something you're interested in, Dylan? Because I believe Upgrade was one of your favorite films of that year.
Don't think it was, but I did enjoy it. Let's set the bar not as high as yours said.
Maybe not one of your favorite, like maybe top 20.
I did enjoy it. Yeah. I'll watch it. Sure. You know, it's definitely going to be no Limitless TV series, so I'll set my bar low to go in. And as far as sequel TV series to movies go, I know that this probably can't live up to the expectation of the Limitless TV series, but
yeah,
I'll see how it goes. I'm
actually he got back into it after we watched Limitless the movie.
Can you believe this motherfucker over here a couple days ago when I'm like, I haven't watched much lately for what I watch, goes, yeah, not since your wrestling addiction. While he's watching fucking Limitless
I watched
TV
like 3
show.
Episodes.
Fucking Limitless TV show. Get the hell out of here. I can watch whatever the hell I want, motherfucker. No,
Come up,
damn this. Yeah, I'll be watching. You know what I will be watching soon, Ash? Upgrade, the TV series brought to you by Blumhouse and Lee Winnell. Fuck yeah. 2026, by the time the quarantine's over
one
and
of
the fires in America
movies.
Have put out a date.
One of Dylan's favorite movies.
Top 10 movies of 2020.
But
when they re-put it in cinemas because nothing's
yeah, that's a short one. Other short piece of news. Sonic the Hedgehog getting a sequel. Was that a surprise to anybody?
No. Tails. Cool. Let's go. I'm keen.
You see, Dylan even like got into the Sonic mood with how quick those answers were.
Bang!
Gotta go fast.
Bang!
You know what they do need to? They need to include.
You're like, Dylan, I didn't know Tails was at the end. Look, they just announced a sequel. Okay, too bad. You've missed out.
Too bad.
Tails
So sad.
sequel.
And we
End
talked
credit
about it
scene.
on another episode.
Did we?
We've already talked about Tails being in it, and the last an episode or two ago, we've spoken about this. And as long as they just include the song "Speed of Sound" from Sonic Adventure 2, we're fine. Because that song's a banger, and I listen to it every now and then.
Hashtag Blue Lives Matter.
Fuck it! What is this show?
You're talking about Sonic, right? Specifically
I'm talking
Sonic.
about Sonic. Yeah, I'm talking about Sonic. What the fuck? I don't know what you're laughing at, Karen. Don't know what you're laughing at. The only one for me.
And I guess the final piece of news, Ryan Gosling is set to play the Wolfman in Universal Pictures' Wolfman movie, potentially being directed by Corey Finley, director of Thoroughbreds and Bad Education. Or
Is this
possibly
part of
being
the-
directed by Ryan Gosling himself. There's a possibility he might come back and do
Direction.
his first film since 2014's Lost River.
Is
Is
this part of
Ryan
the
Gosling
dark-
wolf enough for his...
Well, he's always hairless when he takes his shirt off in movies, so I don't know if he's hair enough. Is this part of that dark anthology?
No,
No, this is... No,
Thing
the
that
Dark
died?
Matters universe died a quick
Damn.
death. This is like the cool Invisible Man anthology series, I guess, now.
not.
that
They're
kind
just
of
making
building.
movies now. They're just making movies.
They're just making movies. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be good. I've nothing to doubt Ryan Gosling doing whatever the F Ryan Gosling wants to do.
I think it was back in 2009 when the last one came out.
The
The Wolfman, starring Benicio del Toro.
Yes.
Right? So, and I remember going to watch that in the cinema. I wrote a review for it on my very first movie blog, the original one I started back in the day. I'm sure it was a terrible review, but
When
I
you're
do
like a
recall
hobo.
giving it a 6. So it
Yes.
can only really go up because that movie from memory wasn't
Wait,
too
you're
hot.
saying it can't go below a 6?
It can't. I'm expecting this to be better than a 6, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Because that movie wasn't too hot.
Okay. So apparently plot details are vague, but reports say the film is believed to be set in present times and is in the wake of Jake Gyllenhaal's night thriller Nightcrawler with an obvious supernatural twist.
I'm all
That's
about
cool.
it. I rewatched Nightcrawler like 6 months ago. Great movie.
I mean, it'll be an interesting lineup that the Universal is currently building of their monster movies, because they've also got in the works Paul Feig's Dark Army, Dexter Fletcher's Renfield, Elizabeth Banks' Invisible Woman, Matt Stawitzki's The Monster Mash, and Kara Kasuma's Dracula. I mean, so,
One of
you
these
know,
is going to be shit, and it's going to ruin the reputation. Of
Which one is?
the rest of them. I'm just saying, one of them's eventually going to be shit, and then everyone's going to be like, "Damn, these were all so good," and then you ruined it. I wonder which one it's going to be.
I think Monster Mash sounds like the one that's going to screw it up.
I guarantee one of them's shit, and it kind of ruins everyone's. Like, damn, this was the one. This was the dark universe to rule them all. Fucking
it's probably
Invisible
going to be the
Man
one where they're
started
trying to
it.
cross over.
Damn. I hope they never cross over, to be honest. Or just fucking make maybe 10 years. Just make your
mean-
damn movies.
Listen, just give me one shot of all the monsters in a circle and the camera panning around them, like in the Avengers. Just once.
You need Alan Quartermain to come in and turn into
And take them all out, yeah.
League
Sean
of
Connery
Extraordinary
finally
Gentlemen.
comes out of retirement.
Yeah, out of retirement. Yeah. Can you believe he's still not dead? Like, as a side note, can you believe he's still alive?
Welcome to the Sean Connery segment of the show. Is Sean Connery still alive? Yes.
Can you
Tune
believe
in.
this dude? This dude was like 90 million years old, like when he retired 20 years ago.
He
and
don't-
you
he
never
was
read
old.
about him dying. Like, I still don't.
He
Maybe
was-
he's dead, and we don't know.
He was
You know?
old. He was old in Indiana Jones. Like, that's how. Like, he was old then. So
Hey Siri, how old's Sean Connery?
she probably doesn't know because you didn't say it properly.
89.
What?
89 years
Bullshit.
old.
He's in
What a
hiding.
G. What an
Yeah.
absolute Chad. Like, just the biggest Chad going, Sean Connery.
Can't believe he's not dead though. Like,
It's like I can't believe it's not Butter Ad, but about Sean Connery being alive.
All right. On that note, that's the end of the news for this episode. Let's move into the movie that we ended up watching. Dylan, what did we end up watching?
We ended up watching the movie Animal Kingdom for its 10th anniversary.
Hope you find the killers.
Which Joey? Detective Senior Sergeant Leggy? You ready?
Jay is a star witness.
This has got nothing to do with me. Everything has got to do with everyone.
Now you're not in any danger. What do you think we should do?
What's wrong, huh?
What's happening?
You've done some bad things, sweetie.
Yes, Animal Kingdom, released in 2010, directed by David Michaud, starring Ben Mendelsohn, Joel Edgerton, Guy Pearce, Luke Ford, Jackie Weaver, Sullivan Stapleton, and James Fretcheville. After his mother's death, a teen, Joshua, moves in with his uncles and grandmother. Joshua's life takes a threatening twist when he learns that his family is a mid-level crime syndicate. So yes, like Dylan mentioned, 10-year anniversary of Animal Kingdom, released in Australia on June 3rd, 2010. I had not seen Animal Kingdom prior to going into this. Obviously, Dylan had. Ciaran, had you watched this film before?
No, I've never seen
No.
this movie.
Obviously, it's been hyped up incredibly. Jackie Weaver's performance earned her an Oscar nomination, which is bonkers because it's an Australian-made film, completely made here, not like Mad Max.
Shunned.
David Michaud's directorial debut. Ciaran, what did you think of the film?
Thought it was good. It screamed super Australian film industry for me. Like you could tell it was an Australian movie even without it being set. Shout out to Bendigo, which is just an hour away from where I live. That is featured in the movie. I was like, yeah. Yeah, it was enjoy. I don't want to use the word enjoyable. It was good. I could see why her performance got an Oscar. But it felt like they'd leveled up. Pardon?
Nomination.
Sorry, Oscar nomination. I just skipped the word. I totally meant to say that. It felt like it was just like a leveled up one of the the crime dramas from Channel 7. Like it was just to give it more time to be put together.
I was willing to let everything you were saying pass until you said that.
It just felt like that to me, but I still enjoyed it.
Okay, Dylan, why is Ciaran wrong about everything you just said?
I mean, I don't need to explain. The listeners know. He's just wrong. I really love this movie. I've seen it several times. In fact, I remember the first time I watched it, I rented it as a new release from Video Easy. That's right, people used to go to the video store and rent it, right? And I rented it and I watched it. I put it on at like fucking 11 o'clock or something. And I loved it so much that as soon as it finished, I rewatched it with director's commentary. So I watched it twice in the first night it came out. And I would definitely say that this was, apart from your typical Australian films that everyone had watched, because I'm talking like, I was in high school, obviously. Like this is Dylan getting into cinema, right? So I hadn't watched as many Australian films as I have now, and I probably still don't watch as many as I should/could. And that's always something I wish I could rectify. However, I'd say this was early me watching something that wasn't mainstream fucking, like Crocodile Dundee or The Castle, Mad Max, like, I was like, damn, this is like pretty fucking good. And I got like super attached to it, loved everyone. And this movie is why I'll pretty much watch anything that Joel Edgerton and Ben Mendelsohn are in. This is the first movie I saw both of them in. This is the first, obviously, Dave Michaud directed thing I've seen. This is the first thing I can remember seeing Jackie Weaver in. And anytime I see any of those actors in anything, I always just think about Animal Kingdom. Like, this is my pinpoint for every single one of those people because I watched this when it came out. And I just think it's a fantastic movie. I think it's the family drama, the characters. Like, it's based on this true story, but like not like where it's actually telling the exact same thing. It's like this I can't remember the name of the real Australian crime family, but there's a real Australian crime family of which this movie is
Pentonville?
Yeah, something like that sounds about
Pentagon
right,
criminal family.
Which like they were headed up by this grandma character, which Jackie Weaver is obviously playing, but they were a lot more fucked up and not as interesting as this. So it's like it kind of took that dynamic and the crime they committed, which the key crime in this movie and the key crime they committed, which was the tricking the cops to come out and then murdering them in the middle of the street. That's like the key connecting factors. That is something that actually happened. But the key thing that makes this movie work is the kid, the dynamic between the family, and I think I really enjoy its Australianisms. And I know maybe that's what makes it seem like Australian underbelly like to you, because when you watch like American gangster or like crime things, people are always like so much cooler, but here you've just got Joel Edgerton in fucking jeans and sneakers being like, all right, love, I'll fucking pop out and speak to him about, right? And then you got the guy, the other dude's like streaming to a drug dealer. He's like, yeah, mate, just tell him to pull his fucking head in, eh? Just pull his fucking head in. And fucking walks out with thongs on, and I guess some of that, because you don't see many Australian crime stuff, if you've only seen like underbelly and stuff like that, it's just going to reek of that sort of stuff. But
yeah,
I mean, there
100%.
are other Australian crime movies, but if that's all you've seen, I guess that's the connecting point. But I just think it's fantastically acted. I think again, Jackie Weaver should have won an Oscar in my opinion. I remember watching the Oscars that year and being so disappointed that she didn't win, and rewatching this again the other day, I was like, fuck, she should have got. There's literally a moment where she is like having this conversation somewhere near the end of the movie, and she's like, all right, love, come back there, and just the way she holds her eyes, I'm like, oh my fucking god, and like kind of just see through her because she's just so hiddenly evil. She's just evil.
She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress with Haley Steinfeld for True Grit, Helena Bonham Carter for The King's Speech, Amy Adams for The Fighter, and the winner Melissa Leo for The Fighter.
Yeah, ripped off. I don't think The Fighter was that good, IMO, but that's a different subject. No, but rewatching it again, I was like, fuck, she's so good. Yeah, I can't really pinpoint a certain reason I love it. It's just, obviously, I have an attachment from a time, place, watching it when it first released and be like, damn, this movie is like, and I do say, I will admit, I reckon some of that was at the time. I was like, this movie's so good for an Australian film. Like I can guarantee that's what was going through my head the first time I watched it. And I still hold this film in such high regard that I would say it's probably my favorite Australian film that's not like a big co-production thing, because then I'd probably say Fury Road's probably my favorite Australian film, if I can count that there. But I mean, like proper Australian film, I'd probably go for this.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. I mean, it is obviously very well made, very well acted. I was obviously going in with like the expectations. I was expecting Jackie Weaver's performance to maybe be a bit more showy or
Overhyped,
like,
maybe a little.
Yeah, maybe like I was expecting it to like be bigger. I think is probably what I went in expecting. I'm like, oh, these last 20 minutes when she gets in that car, she's gonna like let loose with like some crazy. She's gonna like go crazy or something. But it's like she never really does. It's very subtle. I'll give her that. And it's it's like really dark, I guess, when you think about it. Like that whole relationship between her and the children and that kind of thing. It's like there's a lot of subtle storytelling and that kind of thing. I think Ben Mendelsohn is great in this. He's fucking creepy as fuck. Yeah. Like
you
creepier
can talk to
than
me, mate, don't you know? You can talk to me. You can tell me anything, don't you know, mate? You know that though, mate, don't you? You know that. You can tell me anything if you want, Like
the thing that he does at the end, I thought was going to be much darker than it was. I thought that it was. They teased it was going to be much darker.
With the girlfriend, you mean?
Yes.
His girlfriend, yeah.
Yes, I'm like, this is going a bad way. There was a couple of like surprises throughout the film, like certain characters are in there not as long as I was suspecting them to be, especially given their history now. But yeah, I think the kid who plays James, Jay, was really good, and his arc is interesting through the entire film. It's called his emotional response to kind of everything. I feel like, it's a really interesting story, I guess.
I just love the way the movie starts. He rings the cops. He's like, the cops get there and everything, and then when he rings up Grandma after, he's like, hey, Grandma, so Mum just OD'd and she's dead, so...
No response,
I told the cops I was 18. What should I do?
Yeah.
Like, just the dryness of...
Yeah, and he's just sitting there next to his mother.
It tells you a lot about his
watching Deal
life.
or No Deal.
Yeah, it tells him a lot about his life and like what that kid is like kind of his mental state, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like Guy Pearce in this as well. I think he was great. Obviously, as the detective trying to get to the bottom of this. So yeah, great all around. I think the other thing that really helped the film was the score, especially anytime Ben Mendelsohn was on screen, is like building that tension incredibly every single time. But yeah, really good. Again, I think it might have been a little overhyped for me, but I think I can appreciate it, and I still think it's really good anyway.
Yeah, you know what we need to watch next? We need to watch The Rover, which didn't get as good reviews after this came out, but The Rover is the movie that was my turning point for Robert Pattinson, because that was obviously shortly after all the Twilight shit, and then he does this, and then they do The Rover. It's him and Guy Pearce. I think it's Guy Pearce.
Yeah, Guy Pearce. Yeah, from memory.
And I know that a lot of people were like, it's a bit disappointing after Animal Kingdom, but I remember watching that for the first time, being like, not as good as Animal Kingdom, but still a great movie. But more importantly, holy shit, Robert Pattinson, you're going somewhere. And then, of course, years later, people started coming around. People started coming around more of Good Time and stuff like that, I guess. But yeah.
All right. Unless you guys have anything else to say, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of What Do You Want to Watch? If you want to follow us on social medias, or specifically on Twitter, you can go to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter, or you can just go to explosionnetwork.com. You can check out all their news, reviews, and other podcasts. It's all there at explosionnetwork.com. If you want to send us an email, send us an email at mail@explosionnetwork.com. And if you want to help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or write something nice on Twitter, or just tell your friends. We just want to hear what you want to say. We just want to, you got something you want to tell us? Just tell us. I mean, it didn't really fit in that context, but and it was a really bad impression, but I committed. And thank you very much for listening, and until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.